1995, 20 years ago this year. Toy Story hit cinemas.
So we shall go into Pixar's very first film.
Toy Story.
Yep, Toy Story. Who wants to start off first? Nick, you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. Toy Story for me is, as a kid, when this movie came out, I was like not even 1 year old yet. So it's kind of my life, right? Pixar is kind of as old as I am. So that's special in itself. But mainly, Toy Story is just, I cherished it as a kid. Like I don't think I saw it in cinemas. I was too young, and I wouldn't remember if I did. So I had it on VHS, on video, and I watched it all the time. There were two movies I watched all the time. One of them was Mary Poppins, and the other was Toy Story. Those two movies. And I watched them as a kid for first 3 years of my life, until Toy Story 2 came out, and then Toy Story 2 was the one. But I was obsessed with Toy Story, and it's just, it has this nostalgic place. You know, there's this trend of 90s nostalgia at the moment. Everything nostalgia, everything 90s is amazing, and Toy Story is one of those things. It's one of those things that's very, very 90s, and just oozes nostalgia for anybody who grew up in the 90s. Anyway, so the film itself, I think, like, its script is one of the best scripts of all the Pixar movies. It's so neat, tightly woven, and it pretty much 90 minutes tells such a clean story from start to finish. There's no baggage. There's no like distraction or anything. It's just like Woody's goes from being basically a jerk to that wants to be everybody, like wants everyone to love him, but he doesn't return that favor. He's very self-centered, very selfish, like the extreme end of it, right? Mm-hmm. And by the end of the film, he learns to accept Buzz. Buzz is kind of like the character who comes in and changes Woody's perspective on the world and what it's like to be a toy. And it's funny because Woody's actually trying to change Buzz's perspective, because Buzz thinks he's a space ranger, but in reality, it's not that about that process. It's about the other process, about what Buzz teaches Woody, not what Woody teaches Buzz. And I think that's what makes Toy Story so special, is because it acts like one thing, but in its heart, it's really another thing.
I was gonna say, Toy Story is 80 minutes long, Nick, not 90.
Well, it's even shorter than I thought. It's a very short movie, though. That's what I'm saying. It's very economical in its length.
It's Pixar's shortest movie to date. So, and yeah, everything's very. The narrative is very tight in this 80 minutes. I think it's follows perfectly, despite how short it is.
Think of all the characters it introduces, and we all know and love now. Like we know Rex, we know Ham, we know Slinky. They're all characters that we really kind of adore, and they're in pop culture right now. In an 80-minute film, they managed to just make us just fall in love with this world, this world of the toys, and it's truly amazing. It really just set Pixar on a course and a momentum that it just kept for over a decade, for nearly 2 decades. I think that the first of anything, let alone the first CGI feature film, is actually a good movie. They could have just sold it completely off the gimmick of it's the first full-length feature film made of CGI. They could have just completely sold it off that as a gimmick, but instead they made it into a heartfelt, heartwarming story that has just stood the test of time better than nearly every other movie from the 90s.
Yeah, who won 1995 the Oscars? Because I'm just going to say, I think Toy Story is probably last longer than whoever won the Oscars that year.
The true test of a film is how it ages, and I think Toy Story has successfully passed that test.